Washington, D.C. is gripped by unrest, as the heart of the nation's government becomes the epicenter of a growing crisis. As a government shutdown stretches into its second week, the tension in the air is unmistakable. Protesters fill the streets, their voices echoing off the walls of shuttered federal buildings, and millions of Americans face a future clouded by uncertainty. Families gather around kitchen tables, anxiously checking the latest updates, wondering how long this turmoil will last. The shutdown's impact is nationwide. Federal workers are furloughed, sent home without pay, unsure when or if they'll return to work. Vital services are paused, leaving communities without the support they rely on, and deepening the sense of instability. Political gridlock in Congress has real consequences, and frustration is mounting not just in the halls of power, but in living rooms across the country. Demonstrations in cities like New York grow larger each day, and Los Angeles echoes the anger and determination seen in the Capitol, as citizens demand their voices be heard. Organizers demand an immediate end to the shutdown and a change in leadership, calling for those in power to take responsibility and act. Many blame current policies for the harm spreading across the nation, pointing fingers at lawmakers for the growing crisis. The energy is intense. Anger, passion, and a call for accountability fill the air as emotions run high. The political divide feels deeper than ever, with compromise seeming out of reach. Both parties are entrenched, blaming each other for the impasse, while the public grows weary of endless finger-pointing. Federal employees worry about missed paychecks, struggling to make ends meet as bills pile up and savings dwindle. The economic toll grows daily, with small businesses suffering and local economies feeling the strain. The country watches, waiting for a breakthrough, hoping for leaders to find common ground and restore stability. The protests are a constant reminder of the battle raging not just in Congress, but on America's streets, where frustration and hope collide. The question remains, how long can this last before something gives? As the clock ticks, the nation holds its breath, waiting for a resolution that feels more urgent with each passing day. The No Kings rally, organized and led by prominent Democrats, is a direct response to what they describe as President Trump's sweeping use of executive power. Protesters gather in large numbers, their voices unified in opposition, as they accuse the administration of bypassing democratic norms and checks and balances. The movement's name, No Kings, is a deliberate nod to America's revolutionary roots, evoking the spirit of the nation's founding. By referencing the rejection of monarchy, activists draw a sharp comparison, claiming the president is acting more like a king than a democratically elected leader. Financial backing from the Open Society Foundations, an organization closely associated with billionaire philanthropist George Soros, has become a lightning rod for controversy. Critics allege the protests are manufactured and orchestrated from above, while supporters argue that such funding simply amplifies genuine grassroots frustration and gives a platform to those who feel unheard. At the heart of the demonstrations, protesters lay blame for the government shutdown squarely on the president's shoulders. They rally not just against the shutdown, but also against a broad range of his policies on healthcare, immigration, and the environment, issues they believe threaten the nation's core values and future. The rallies are marked by a spirit of defiance and urgency. Protesters demand a return to traditional governance, transparency, and accountability, insisting that elected officials must answer to the people, not act unilaterally. Soros's involvement has drawn sharp criticism from conservative commentators who see his influence as undue and manipulative. Yet for many protesters, his support is viewed as a necessary counterbalance, helping to level the political playing field in a system dominated by big money and special interests. In today's money-driven political arena, activists argue that outside support is not just helpful, but essential. They believe that without such backing, their voices would be drowned out by more powerful interests, and their calls for change would go unheard. President Trump remains in Washington, projecting the image of a leader at work during crisis. He uses social media and press events to frame the shutdown as a necessary fight for the nation's future. Trump insists he's working tirelessly, refusing to compromise on core principles. He holds meetings, directs agencies to minimize disruption, and uses the standoff to push his policy goals. The president blames Democrats for the impasse, positioning himself as the only one fighting for the people. By staying visible in the White House, he contrasts himself with lawmakers who've left town. His message: he's leading from the front, determined to resolve the crisis on his terms. President Trump places the blame for the government shutdown squarely on the shoulders of the Democratic Party, repeatedly accusing them of prioritizing political gamesmanship over the well-being of the American people. He argues that Democrats are more interested in scoring political points than in finding real solutions for the country, and he often points to the shutdown as evidence of their unwillingness to compromise or put the nation first. Trump frequently singles out prominent Democratic leaders and progressive members of Congress, warning that their policies would not only damage the economy, but also undermine national security. He claims that their approach to governance is reckless and would lead to higher unemployment, weaker borders, and increased instability. In his speeches, Trump frames the ongoing conflict as a battle between common sense and what he calls radical left-wing ideas. He predicts that the Democratic Party's increasingly progressive platform will ultimately alienate mainstream voters, leading to their defeat at the polls. He paints the Democratic Party as deeply divided, suggesting that it is being led by its most extreme voices. According to Trump, this internal discord makes the party incapable of effective leadership and sets them on a path toward electoral disaster. Trump's message is clear. He argues that Democrats threaten the progress he claims to have made on the economy, jobs, and national security. He warns that their policies would reverse these gains, leading to economic decline and a weaker America. To drive this message home, Trump uses his rallies and social media platforms to amplify the contrast between his vision and that of the Democrats. He urges his supporters to reject what he describes as a dangerous and misguided Democratic platform. He claims that Democrats support open borders, higher taxes, and policies that would create chaos, while he promises to deliver more jobs, stronger security, and continued economic growth for all Americans. According to Trump, the choice facing voters is simple and stark: continued prosperity and strength with his leadership, or decline and weakness under Democratic control. This stark, us versus them narrative is central to Trump's shutdown strategy, shaping both his public messaging and his approach to negotiations. President Trump weighs in on New York's political races, endorsing Republicans and criticizing Democratic leadership. He uses New York as a warning, blaming Democrats for high taxes and regulations. Trump expects loyalty from Republicans, touting his platform as the path to growth and security. He's quick to criticize GOP members who stray, insisting party unity is key to victory. Democrats, he argues, are out of touch, focused on identity politics over real issues. He points to Democratic-run cities as evidence of failed policies, citing crime, homelessness, and stagnation. In New York, Trump frames the race as a referendum. Republican victory means prosperity. Democratic win means decline. For Trump, every local contest is a national battleground. Protesters' "No Kings" label is a direct jab at Trump, which he rejects as absurd. He claims he's fighting the entrenched establishment, not ruling like a monarch. Trump blames Senate Democrats for the shutdown, naming their leader as the main obstacle. He's frustrated by Senate rules, arguing they empower the minority to block progress. Trump says the real kings are career politicians and bureaucrats. He's the outsider challenging their power. For him, the shutdown is a battle between his populist movement and a resistant elite. The shutdown spotlights federal spending, with Trump canceling a $20 billion infrastructure project as wasteful. Critics say this hurts workers, but the administration calls it fiscal discipline. Trump's frustration with the courts grows after rulings complicate his shutdown plans. He's also targeting America's cities, launching cleanup efforts in D.C., and promising similar action in places like Chicago and San Francisco. The president blames local Democratic leaders for crime and homelessness, vowing federal intervention if needed. Supporters see decisive action. Opponents call it federal overreach. Trump frames these moves as restoring order and accountability where local leaders have failed. The urban agenda becomes another front in his battle with Democratic policies.